you could see he had the ability and the talent. As even in high school, we'd play one-on-one, or we'd play stuff, and his biggest attribute was his arms. So if you take your arm and you put your arm over your head and bend your elbow, it bends usually at the top of your head. It's just kind of how you're made. He would bend his arm, and he had about this much space, so he had extra long arms, and so you could think you could get a shot off or get something around the basket, and he'd come out of nowhere, and he didn't have to be close to you to block it. So he had that ability, and he worked hard. He wasn't a gym rat in any respect, at most part, but he knew his strengths. He knew how to work with players, and knew his role as he went, played at the U and played for the Celtics. He knew what was expected of him, and you did that, and he was good at being a team player and being coachable and stuff. So
I'm going to open up to you guys if you have a couple more questions to finish with John. But his touch, I always thought he had such great touch.
Yeah.
He must have shown some flashes of that back then.
He could shoot
for a big guy.
For a big guy, and had a nice release, and would shoot again because his arms were so long. He could get his shot off on much taller people because he shot the ball up high and could get it off. But and he was always. We had a coach in ninth grade that kind of worked on our footwork. And he was very student of that. So he always had good footwork around the basket, doing up and under and that sort of thing. He picked those things up pretty quickly. And so he was always, he tells stories about playing in the NBA and those guys would always talk trash with people. And he would always give Charles Barkley just a hard time. And, you're coming into the torture chamber now. And he goes, he'd be on the low block. And he goes, what should we do now? And he'd say to Charles, what should we do now? And he'd go up and fake and go up and under, and so.
But he's got Bird yapping on one side too.
Well,
so
that's what he learned from him. I mean, Larry Bird would always do that, but he, like I said, he could talk trash with the best of them, and cut you to smithereens.
And Danny Ainge called his one kind of up and under move the slippery eel.
Yep.
So.
And so he got everything he deserved. Kevin worked hard for it. He was in the right place, the right time, got drafted by a good organization, coached by good people along the way, and so, he's a product of his hard work. It's not a fluke that he's made it as far as he did and what he's done.
All those guys benefit from having great teammates around him.
Right.
I mean, let's face it, whether it's Robert Parrish or Bird or Ainge or Kevin McHale.
They're all kind of quirky. They all weren't, cookie cutter, nice, flashy Kevin Durant kind of big guys. Each guy had their. Robert Parrish shot funny, Kevin to some degree shot funny, Bird shot funny. Yeah. But they made it. They knew what they could do. They stayed within their abilities and they worked hard. And like I said, both, Kevin worked hard for what he got. He wasn't a lazy, guy that got more than he deserved. He certainly worked at it.
A lot of big personalities on that Boston team too, so that helps. And then you put Bill Walton in '86 on that team. Anyways, any other things, guys, that you have? Just fire away. Any questions?
One question. Going into the state championship game.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts as far as your confidence level?
Kind of nervous after having what happened to us in the consolation game. Yep. That you're kind of, man, they smoked us last year. Although Jefferson's team, I think, turned over. I think the team in '75 was mostly seniors and had turned over. So I think it still might have been seniors, but it wasn't seniors from that other team. I don't know how many people played in both games for Jefferson. That would be interesting to see because I don't think there was a lot.
Lingenfelter was really the only guy that played as a junior. The rest of the guys that were in '76 weren't playing.
And I don't think Steve played a lot even as a junior. He played, but
he started. He was one of their main guys. Yeah.
And so anyway, but we were worried or nervous, but you kind of don't know what to expect. And like I said, we got off to a good start, so that helped. It's like, okay, here we go. We got it. It wasn't like we fell behind by 20 right off the bat. We were ahead most of the first half, and but going into the game, we were somewhat confident that we would be competitive and see if we could pull it out at the end or be competitive. And we were for a half, and then like I said, it just kind of floated away from us pretty quick.
You might have one of the quickest baskets in state tournament history. That game started, the championship game against Jefferson.
Yeah.
You guys got the tip. You scored probably 3,
Right
4.
away.
Do you remember that?
No, we ran a play. We spent one of those things that kind of in youth basketball where some guy says, okay, we're going to practice the opening tip. Well, come on, let's do something else. So we did, as our coach Addington would have an opening tip play. We had a play. We ran to tip forward, and one guy would go long and throw it to him. So but I don't remember that. I don't remember that we did score right away.
Yeah, you did. You got
I
the
did?
basket, yeah.
I did?
And I think the announcers said at the time that you had your hand taped, so I kind of knew you came in to that game with a little issue.
Well, like I said, I broke it in January in Cloquet, and then didn't play again until right before the last game of the season, regular season. I got to take the cast off, but I couldn't use my hand, so I had to play like left-handed, one-handed against Greenway. And then as it went, I couldn't really shoot much, but I could get it off my fingertips a little bit. But yeah, it was a fun game, but just didn't end the way we wanted to.